Good morning. Thanks for the opportunity to present here on the International Rapeseed Conference technical meeting. My name is Gertjan SMOLDERS. I'm the Innovation and Technology Manager of the Business Unit Proteins of the Future here at DSM Food Specialty in the Netherlands. And today I want to introduce you to Canola Pro. It's a protein that DSM has been developing in the past years, and currently we are building a plant to produce this unique protein and will be commercial next year. In my presentation, I will introduce you to canola, how it's processed, what functionality it has, and how to use it in applications like dairy and meat alternatives. Commercialization of Canola Pro did not happen overnight. Over 10 years ago, DSM was looking for functional ingredients to strengthen their portfolio and match the business strategy. Already back then, it was clear that the population on our globe is growing to 9 billion people by 2050, and therefore the overall food consumption will increase, and the available arable land is not enough to provide that. It's clear that innovations in agriculture and technology were needed to feed this growing population from the same amount of land. So we started looking for undervalorized crops, and our focus really was on proteins. And canola is produced worldwide in large quantities. Canada is the #1, followed by Europe and then China. The total volume is more than 70 million tons of seeds every year, and it offers a great potential. And by the way, the canola types that are shown here are not all the same. In Canada and US, the majority is GMO, while in Europe this is not allowed and everything is non-GMO. But what is the potential of canola? Well, the protein, of course. In theory, we can make a calculation on how many people can be fed from the 70 million ton rapeseed that is grown every year. This rapeseed contains roughly 20% protein, so you will have 14 million tons of protein every year. And if you calculate with a daily intake of protein of 50 grams per day on average, you can calculate that around 700 million people every year can be fed from this protein. So that is 2 times US, and it is a decent amount. In order to get the best quality of protein out of this canola, we decided to work with cold pressed cake. The pressing at this cold pressed cake is done typically at 60 to 70 degrees Celsius, and the proteins are still native after pressing and provide the highest quality. At the same time, the oil that is obtained can be directly used in food without refining and is equivalent to olive oil. So on 2 sides, you get a premium quality of product. This cold press cake we used and we applied a concept that we called malt processing. So malt pressing and malt processing in order to ensure a full native protein. And for that, we needed to develop also a novel method for the extraction, because if you start with cold pressed cake, there is a little bit of oil inside, which comes also in your extract, and you need to deal with that. So that needed to be solved. And at the same time, you need to remove all the anti-nutritional factors that are present in canola, like glucosinolates, polyphenols, and phytate, in order to get a high quality isolate. And we were able to provide that, and the Canola Pro that was the result of that is a real protein isolate. It is a very high purity. It has a purity of more than 90%. It's around 95%. And at the same time, the anti-nutritional factors are really low. It's nutritionally very attractive. It is a complete protein and it has an excellent nutritional quality, which I will explain in a few slides later on. But as a result of the way it has been processed, the functionality is very high. It is very soluble, also at a lower pH range, and that offers a lot of opportunities in application. At the same time, it is attractive in terms of labeling, because it is non-GMO. We did not use any solvents, so you can claim it's solvent-free, and also there's no gluten, so you can claim gluten-free. If you look to the carbon footprint, it has a very good profile. It's clearly a lot lower than animal proteins, as you can see here, and it is among the lowest of the plant proteins. This low level is the result of the fact that we valorized an already existing source. There's no additional or new land use required, and we have a very efficient processing that recycles energy and water, and side streams that are remaining are used as a feed source. To nutrition, I think this is one of the most valuable aspects of the Canola Pro. Canola Pro has first of all a very good amino acid profile, and you can see that in this graph, showing the essential amino acids that you need for your body. The light green bars, they show the required levels that are defined by FAO, and as you can see in the dark green bars, you see that in every essential amino acid there's more than enough available. So the Canola Pro has sufficient essential amino acids. Having sufficient essential amino acids is important, but it's not the only thing. It needs also to be digestible, and this is expressed in a parameter that's called PTCase. And if all essential amino acids are sufficiently digestible, you get a PTCase of 1, which is equivalent to dairy proteins. And clearly, as you can see in this graph, not all plant proteins have a PTCase of 1, but Canola Pro is one of them. Among nutritionists, there's a lot of discussion on PTCase, and they propose to switch to a better way to measure the digestibility of proteins, and that's called the diase. The difference is that with the PTCase, the digestibility is measured in the feces, and the last part of the digestion is done by fermentation in the colon. And this does not mean anything for your body. It's not taken up. And the diase is measuring the true uptake of these amino acids in the ileum, and is therefore a much better method. So next to measuring the PTCase, we also decided to measure the diase of our product. And with this diase method, Canola Pro showed a very favorable score. It's very close to whey protein, and among the plant proteins is one of the highest scores. Note that in the graph, the diase is split in 3 categories. If you score below 75%, you cannot make any protein claim. And between 75 to 100%, you can claim a good source of protein. And if you are above 100%, you can have an excellent source of protein claim. And you see that also that soy, pea and rice are all scoring lower. So Canola Pro is really a very good source of protein. And with this excellent nutritional score of Canola Pro, you can also enrich other proteins. In this example, it is shown that a pea concentrate, which you see on the left side, has a PTCase of around 80, which you can see in the right graph. Now, if you add roughly 20% of the Canola Pro, you can make the amino acid profile complete and claim a PTCase of 1. So this is how a complete protein like Canola Pro can be used to get incomplete proteins to the acceptable or desired nutritional level. Then coming to sensory. Each plant protein has its own specific sensory profile. Most plant proteins have a mouthfeel, for instance, that is providing powdery mouthfeel and sometimes even gritty mouthfeel, which is related to solubility issues. So not all plant proteins are so soluble. And next to that, every source has its own specific flavor. A soy and a pea provide really a grain and a bean flavor, and the Canola Pro in the orange curve here has a very sweet and licorice flavor, which is rather typical. This is measured, or the previous slide was measured in a 2% solution, but this of course is not how a consumer ever will taste it. And in this picture we have shown that if you formulate the protein into an end application, it is completely different. It shows the enormous reduction of taste attributes you get during formulation and processing. This graph shows an almond drink fortified with 3.5% protein, and then compared with an almond drink as it is normally made, so with 0.5% protein. And you can see that in the attributes that can be difficult, there's absolutely no deviation with commercial product. So you can formulate the Canola Pro, although it has this specific taste attributes, completely towards comparable to the commercial product. Then coming to functionality, it's not surprising. The key functionality of Canola Pro is the solubility, soluble over the full pH range. And this is different from other plant proteins. Most plant proteins are not soluble in the lower pH range, but Canola Pro is in this solubility comparable to whey protein. And this is also a result on how it has been processed. Canola Pro will be sold as an isolate powder, and the functionalities of Canola Pro are beneficial for a broad set of applications, which I will shortly highlight. The key functionality, as said, is the solubility, and this can be used, first of all, for an RTM. Even with inclusion levels up to 20%, there will be no increase in viscosity of the liquid, which is rather unique. You can also go to ready-to-drinks. For example, the milk alternatives are an example of that. And the key functionality is that you get a very smooth product in the drink. It needs to be said that due to nativity of the Canola Pro, it will denature if you sterilize or pasteurize your product, and you will get aggregate. DSM has developed a solution to prevent these large aggregation formation during processing, and it results in a minimal effect in the final product. Sorry, now I need to go back. Yeah. Going forward, you can, by application of more energy and pressure, you can create texture. Typically in an extrusion process, you can use Canola Pro. You denature the protein, and with that you can create a network, and it improves in general the structure of TVPs that you can, for instance, use in meat alternatives. You can also, by applying only heat, form a gel, and a gel has a unique, the Canola Pro gel has a unique texture that will show resilience upon compression, which is rather different from other plant proteins. If you combine it with oil and you apply some shear, you can use the Canola Pro as an emulsifier. You can, for instance, make a mayonnaise. And the last functionality to show is that if you apply aeration and some shear, you can make all kinds of foams, which is something you can use, for instance, in an ice cream. Well, the first functionalities I mentioned is really what you typically use in meat alternatives, and the last ones are more what you use in dairy alternatives. So for meat alternatives, you can use, for burgers, you can make nuggets, and you can make sausages. And for dairy alternatives, you should think about ice cream, plant-based milk, cream cheese, and for instance, a mayonnaise. Of course, DSM provides a lot of other solutions, as you can see here, and they can also be combined in these products. Coming to applications, a bit more specific, dairy alternatives, I have mentioned it. The most important thing is for a dairy alternative that you can claim the complete protein, so it provides a complete nutrition. Next to that, the functionality, the high solubility, helps to formulate the products in a very good way, and you have, of course, the advantage of the fact that it is non-GMO and gluten-free, etc. Examples of that are ice cream. You can make really smooth ice creams with a very good texture and with also a minimal impact on the flavor profile. Cream cheese, as mentioned, is a different product which you can make. The good emulsifying properties result here in a product with excellent cohesiveness and spreadability. And here again, a very good taste and flavor profile can be obtained, and the high nutritional value can of course be claimed. Then coming to meat alternatives, it's a very important segment these days. Canola protein can be successfully applied in dry and in wet extrusion processes to improve the texture. Also, it can be used in applications where gelling is needed. It will depend on the application how successful this will be, however. The reason why you would like to use canola protein in this segment is threefold: improvement of texture, improvement of taste, and the high nutritional value. And what I would like to show in this figure is what it actually can bring. You see here in the upper line legume-based textured vegetable proteins, and in the middle part it is hydrated, and in the right part some force is applied to it, and what you can see is that a very soft and mushy material is remaining. In the bottom part you see legume-based TVPs with Canola Pro, and you see here that there's much more fiber, inside, and with that you get a resilience upon force. So you get a better texture, and it is a much better product to chew on. Then last but not least, ready to mix. The sports nutrition is a really important segment. The excellent solubility and the very high nutritional value that is close to whey protein is highly relevant in this sports nutrition segment. Way forward, Canola Pro nowadays is already approved in Europe and US. So there's novel food approval for Europe, and we have FDA GRAS approval in US, and the rest of the world is in different stages of approval. And if you want to know where we are, then just let us know and we can check. We are making or producing the Canola Pro together with a partner. This is Avril in France, and we are producing the Canola Pro in a joint venture which is called Olateam. Currently we are building the full-scale plant. It's done in Dieppe in France, and halfway next year this commercial plant will be available and product is available. For now, already pre-commercial samples are available from our demo unit here in Delft. Last sheet I want to show is on the future. For the future, it's clear that higher protein levels in canola will help to drive the value chain. Traditionally, canola is grown for the oil, where the major components in soy and pea are protein and starch, respectively. And both crops, soy and pea, are higher in protein levels. And in order to further improve the canola business, higher protein levels in the seeds will help tremendously. This might help both in winter seeds as in spring seeds. And therefore, starting breeding initiatives, and I'm specifically focusing on the protein, is what would be very helpful. And I come to the end of my presentation. I hope you did enjoy this presentation, and if there are any questions, feel free to ask. I want to thank you for your attention.